Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
CARICOM is staying out of Guyana's political affairs. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Wednesday, July 24th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque says the 15-member regional bloc won't be getting involved in Guyana's political affairs at this time. He says there would have to be a breakdown in judicial and democratic processes and a request from both the government and the opposition for help for CARICOM to get involved. Ambassador LaRocque made that position clear as the regional grouping comes under severe criticism from opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo for what he says is a noticeable silence on developments in Guyana. Last week, Jagdeo said he was extremely disappointed that CARICOM's voice had been loud on matters in other countries, including Haiti and Venezuela, yet it had nothing to say on the situation in the country where its secretariat is based. That situation he's referring to involves actions taken since the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, last month validated the no-confidence motion passed against the government in December last year and ordered that elections be held in keeping with the Constitution. The Constitution states that unless an extension is approved by a two-thirds majority vote of the National Assembly, elections must be held within 3 months after the passage of a no-confidence motion. But with legal challenges to the validity of the motion starting in January, that 3-month timeline was put on pause until June 18th when the CCJ delivered its ruling, which effectively means the deadline for elections is now September 18th. However, the Ghana Elections Commission, GECOM, has started house-to-house registration to compile a new voters list that Jagdeo and his People's Progressive Party, PPP, insists will not be finished in time to go to the polls. A challenge to the registration process is now before the courts. And while all this is ongoing, the CARICOM Secretary General is adamant that authorities in Guyana have their job to do and time must be given for the ongoing process to work.
And we've seen the process has worked thus far, in the sense that the CCJ delivered a judgment and its consequential orders. And the CCJ, in my view, was very, very clear that all the actors concerned, the executive, the opposition, and the GECOM, must play their part. As I understand it, there continues to be dialogue among the parties. We continue to monitor everything very, very, very closely. I have met with both the President and with the Leader of the Opposition on more than one occasion following the ruling. I have met with the Leader of the Opposition following the ruling, and I have spoken to His Excellency following the ruling. So I am in touch. I will continue to be in touch. My chairman is also briefed regularly. That is the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. I know he's also reached out. And we're going to continue monitoring this. We remain available to assist if we're asked to assist, but CARICOM does not interfere unless the democratic and the judicial process breaks down. We are very much engaged as far as I'm concerned. I read all kinds of things in the media, but that's our position going forward. It does not mean that we don't care. It doesn't mean that we're not engaged. We are fully engaged.
Meantime, Guyana's Attorney General Basil Williams says the government is optimistic it will get the two-thirds majority it needs in the National Assembly to push back the date for regional and general elections. The opposition has boycotted sittings of the National Assembly and says it will not agree to any extension. More in this report from Newsroom's Bibi Katoon.
Attorney General Basil Williams on Tuesday said he hopes that the opposition will have a change of heart and support an extension to the elections date. The government needs the support of two-thirds of the members of the National Assembly to extend the date for elections beyond 3 months.
The leader of the opposition has been saying he's not going back, So, let's hope that good sense prevails.
The Attorney General added that the Constitution does not limit the time period for which a parliament can be extended.
You must know that there is nothing in the Constitution that says when you go for the two-third extension, it has to be for another 3 months. But that wouldn't make sense. So there's no limit on the period of extension when you go for two-thirds. Because by then you should have GCOM, everybody, all the main constitution actors getting together, leader of the opposition, and you arrive at a definitive date for elections. So when you go to Parliament, you get a definitive date, not go and fix the 3 months and next day you can't make the 3 months and you get a constitutional crisis.
The Attorney General said the extended period will provide time for the government, opposition and the GCOM to come to an agreement on a date for elections and other issues. The opposition leader Bar Jagdev has made it clear that his party will not support an extension to elections date from September 18th. Williams, responding to questions from the media, said if the support is not garnered, the president has to decide when to issue a proclamation dissolving parliament and name a date for elections.
Fortunately for us, we're under 1067. And if there's no two-thirds majority, you fall back on the president, who happens to be the person who has the power to name an election date and also to dissolve parliament.
The Caribbean Court of Justice validated the December 21st no-confidence motion on June 18th, setting its consequences in motion, which also include the need for cabinet, including the president, to resign. The Attorney General on Tuesday maintained that the provision for the cabinet to resign is absurd. Opposition leader Bar Jagdev at the weekend wrote a letter to President David Granger requesting that the president and cabinet resign forthwith.
Continuing with news out of Guyana, doctors in Cuba who've been treating President David Granger for non-Hodgkin lymphoma say they're satisfied with the results of his latest tests and his recovery process overall. Granger traveled to Havana last weekend for further treatment for cancer, which he was diagnosed with in November last year. According to a statement issued by the Guyana Embassy in Cuba, after 4 investigations during his latest trip, doctors, quote, found nothing negative about his present state of health, end quote. The specialists have proposed that Granger return to Cuba for another round of evaluation in another 90 days. The president is back in Guyana now. He returned on Tuesday evening. Over in Trinidad and Tobago, the body of one of 7 fishermen who went missing after pirates attacked them on a Monday night was found on Wednesday morning. Searches are still ongoing for the other 6. One man who had made it to shore said the group was attacked by gunmen who threw them overboard and stole their boats. The boats and engines were found on Tuesday morning and 4 people were taken into custody. We get more in this TTT News report.
Police media briefing Public Information Officer Senior Superintendent Wayne Meister confirmed reports that the body of one of them was found.
Unfortunately, fishermen discovered the body of Anand Rampasad, aged 39, of 13 Smith Street, Korea Village, Caripachima, just 2 miles off the Calibre port. He was one of the captain of the pirogues that was Robert C. Yesterday morning. So that's the latest update. As we speak, 4 persons are presently in police custody, assisting them with this investigation. And 6 boat engines have since been recovered relative to that robbery.
By Tuesday night, 5 men were reported safe after being picked up by fishing vessels which had joined the search. The fate of the 6 still at sea is still unknown. They are 21-year-old Brandon Kisoon and his 19-year-old cousin Justin Kisoon, 27-year-old Shiva Aries Ramdeo, Hemraj Alex Suknanan, Jason Trevor Batiste, and Leslie Debole.
Jamaica has reactivated its Ebola virus disease response plan in the wake of an outbreak of the deadly disease in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The World Health Organization last week declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern. And Jamaica's Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says, although the current global risk of transmission of Ebola remains relatively low, Jamaica is prepared for the eventuality of the virus reaching its shores.
The Ebola virus disease response plan implemented in 2015 is being activated to increase awareness and educate stakeholders, Mr. Speaker. We are also, and I'm addressing through a number of particular initiatives. Firstly, undertaking specialized training and retraining of relevant stakeholders, including immigration and customs personnel, port health staff, public health departments, clinical care teams, and all persons who may handle specimen. Secondly, enhancing surveillance at ports of entry to the island through sensitization and screening. Thirdly, as well as reviewing clinical protocols for management and infection control practices. Mr. Speaker, we are also reinforcing our lab response capabilities and preparing isolation areas at our public health facilities.
Earlier this week, St. Lucia's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Merlene Fredericks James, said the country had also activated its Ebola preparedness plans, and Barbados' Ministry of Health and Wellness said it was reviewing and updating its Ebola plan to ensure authorities are able to respond effectively if the need arises. Still to come, the St. Lucia government urged to refuse permission for an LGBT march in the island. Stay with us.
Coming up, eye-catching art, a mix of cultures on display in one location. It's time for CaribFesta. The best of Barbados outside of Barbados. Antigua and Barbuda get showcased to the world. Plus, an East-West fusion of sound. It's all next on Caribbean Passport on this station.
So now we're going to add our seasonings, so scallions and onions there. So now we are adding the crushed garlic and pepper.
Today we have another medical malpractice case that we're going to be talking about, Miss Waheed.
Saria Waheed.
Yeah. Tell our audience about who she was and what happened to her.
Saria was a woman from who had come to America from Pakistan in her mid-60s, who had a lovely family, husband Abdul, great people, who had a routine urological procedure.
Continuing with the news now, two religious leaders attached to the Pentecostal Assembly of the West Indies, PAWI, are urging the St. Lucia government to resist pressure to grant permission to the LGBTQI community to hold a march next month. The pastors are concerned that such an event would send the wrong signals to society, particularly the youth. We get more in this Choice TV news report.
The announcement of the island's first ever public pride celebration seems to have ruffled some feathers. On Tuesday, two religious leaders attached to the Pentecostal Assemblies of the West Indies convened a press conference to express major concerns about the upcoming activity. The historic Pride celebration is scheduled for August 23rd to 26th and is intended to sensitize and educate the general public. According to a press release from the organizers, the event also seeks to nurture the dignity of non-heterosexual and gender non-conforming people. However, the religious leaders are of the impression that a different agenda is being pushed.
In an 8-paragraph release, in the press release, they use the term family at least 5 times. And they will have a family day. My concern is, if they say family, and if their agenda is accepted worldwide, in the next 50 years we will not have a family, because there cannot be procreation based on what they are pushing, their agenda they are pushing. So who will be the family? The family base will be eroded the way we know it. And then we'll have a fresh agenda And because I understand in our schools they're already teaching our children that family are two adults and a child. And that's not what God intended.
However, reporters pointed out that there is no evidence which proves that a person's sexuality can be influenced by exposure to certain types of behavior or information.
I have had many people come to my office from the gay community and say, Pastor, I'm in trouble. These people influence me from this. So I'm talking from experience.
In recent years, pride parades have become increasingly popular, especially in the Caribbean region. As a result, reporters wanted to know why exactly the church has taken issue with consenting adults celebrating their right to love whomever they please.
And this is not love, to be honest with you, because love does not hate. Love does not do what is wrong. That's what the Bible says. First, you have to love God. Then you have to love your fellow man as yourself. Now, if you are practicing what God says not to practice, you're not loving him. That's not true love. So that's lust. That is evil. And perhaps that's the bottom line of the whole thing. This whole thing is devilish.
Guyanese craft producers say they're being unfairly treated by CaribFesta organizers. That's in this week's Newsline Business. And we also hear there's a call for more affordable electric cars in Trinidad, and Jamaicans are told to brace for higher food prices. Here's Mary Claire Williams.
Craft producers in Guyana are up in arms over what they say is unfair treatment from the organizers of CaribFesta in Trinidad. They say they have only been assigned 5 booths to display their work at the festival in Port of Spain next month. That's much less than the number assigned on previous occasions. And they have been protesting their decision outside the CARICOM Secretariat in Georgetown.
Because we are made to understand that there is no booths at present for Guyanese crafters, and Guyanese crafters already invest in their businesses to go to CaribFesta. Some persons out there already paid for the tickets. They already pay for hotel and apartment. I, for one, I bought my ticket since in February, and I already paid for my apartment. So it's unfair now for Trinidad to say that they don't have enough booth space for us.
Over in Trinidad, the Automotive Dealers Association wants government to lower the price of electric cars. The head of the association says there are several benefits to reducing the cost, including protecting the environment and saving on foreign exchange.
This would go a long way in terms of the government having to get US dollars to import fuel. The refinery has been shut down and they have to import fuel. I saw some articles in the newspaper where they were having problems getting the amount of US to import the fuel. And if you really want to get away from this problem, this is a solution to all the problems we are facing with regards to the US dollars for the fuel, with regards to the protection of the environment, and with regards to people spending a lot less money on fuel.
There's been another warning for Jamaicans to brace for an increase in food prices. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, says it could happen as early as next month. He says this is due to the ongoing drought, which has led to shortages of certain produce. Fulton noted the agriculture sector has suffered damage of $400 million as a result of the dry spell. The Ministry of Agriculture has allotted $35 million to supply water to farmers, but Fulton says they will need more. Marika Williams, Newsline Business.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, the West Indies A make a decent start to the unofficial first test against India A. We'll be right back.
Welcome to this year's 50th Caribbean Broadcast Union Assembly on the island of San Andres. San Andres is a small archipelago located in between Jamaica and Panama in the western Caribbean Sea. A lush, exotic island rich in culture, history, gastronomy, and breathtaking scenic views. Known for its beaches and 7-colored crystalline waters, the island of San Andres will be proudly hosting this year's event. CBU members will enjoy top-of-the-line accommodations for an unforgettable experience in San Andres, connecting Caribbean nations through this year's 50th edition of the CBU Assembly.
Do you know, I am really appreciative because I know this affects perhaps, hundreds of thousands of New Jerseyans, and of course people from around the area. Because of course, a lot of New York, New Jersey, and so much of this area intermingle. So this really does affect a large percentage of our viewing audience. So first of all, there's something called the ADA. Could you please explain what the ADA is and how it affects people?
Cricket tops our midweek sports segment, and half-centuries from Jermaine Blackwood and Rakeem Cornwall gave West Indies A a decent start in the unofficial first test against India A at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua. After winning the toss, the regional side posted a respectable total of 228 that included Cornwall's superb knock of 59 from 100 and Blackwood's 53 off 116 balls. Roston Chase chipped in with 25 of 28 deliveries. Shadab Nadeem was the pick of the bowling for India A with figures of 5 for 62. At stumps, India A were on 70 for 1 with Shubman Gill not out on 9 and Priyank Panchal with an unbeaten knock of 31. Well, Cornwall is one of several regional slow bowlers called up for an ongoing spin bowling camp in Antigua. Cornwall, the region's leading off spinner with 256 wickets from 53 first-class matches, has been joined by Test all-rounder Roston Chase, along with left-arm spinner Kerry Pierre, who has played 3 2020 internationals. 19-year-old left-arm spinner Joshua Bishop, a former West Indies youth player, is also a part of the ongoing camp, along with Gudakesh Muti, Karan McCotoy, Larry Edwards, Akeem Frazier, and Shaim Holder. Only Trinidadian spinners will comprise the second camp, with Imran Khan, Yannick Karaya, Yannick Otley, Akil Hussain, and Kisundath Magram all set to feature. The camp, which began on July 20th and runs for a week, is the first of 2. The second camp is scheduled to run from July 29th to August 3rd in Trinidad. Legendary Pakistani leg spinner Mushtaq Ahmed will preside over both camps. This year's World Cup finalist Jamaica Reggae Girls now turn their attention to the Pan Am Games in Lima, Peru. The Jamaicans are hoping to create upsets in the games against tough teams they will face in the group stages. TVJ Sports' Simon Preston reports.
In FIFA Women's World Cup in France, the Reggae Girls will now be heading to Lima, Peru for their first appearance at the Pan Am Games since 2007. 11 out of the 23 squad members from the World Cup will be heading to South America for the Pan Ams. The Jamaicans will face Mexico, Colombia and Paraguay in the group stages of the tournament. The top 2 teams from the group stages will advance to the semi-finals of the competition.
I think we'll do well. We're definitely ready to represent Jamaica and perform well. We are going to obviously go in with the mindset that we're going to win. We're here to play games. We're here to progress and get better. So that's what we need to do.
Training has been good. We've been working really hard, and I think we can do well at this tournament.
Schneider adds that the experience on the world stage also gives the team a boost.
Well, being on the biggest stage and going against the best teams obviously gives us really good experience. We have to push ourselves then on the biggest stage, and we just have to continue doing the same thing now.
With the Pan Am Games and the Olympic qualifiers on the horizon, head coach Hugh Menzies is delighted with regular competitive games for the team.
It gives us an opportunity not only to prepare for the Olympics, but sustain our program, which is important, especially after the World Cup, to identify another crop of players because we want to sustain this. And the next 4 years, we want to be going to wherever that World Cup is. We want to be there.
Forward Trudy Carter has picked up an injury, and Coach Menzies is looking to utility player Lauren Silva to fill the spot.
Yeah, Trudy is still struggling a little bit from her knee, and we didn't want to take the risk. She has a big career ahead of her, and obviously, Lauren's a much, well representative of our country before, so we figured that we're bringing a little bit more experience to the table, and because we do have a young crop of girls.
Meanwhile, Jamaica's football boss Michael Ricketts is disappointed the young reggae boys failed to stake their spot in next year's Olympics after drawing both matches with Dominica and St. Kitts and Nevis in the CONCACAF preliminary group stages.
I'm disappointed is certainly an understatement, because I really think that we have real quality players, and for us to have drawn with Dominica and again draw with, it is indeed extremely disappointing.
Ricketts said the under-23's technical team, led by head coach Donovan Ducky, will have a lot to explain.
As soon as they are back, the technical staff will be meeting with us, and certainly we'll have a fulsome discussion. And a report ought to be tendered, and then we'll certainly have an idea of exactly what was the thought process of the technical staff and what really went wrong.
That's the sport. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
They're on a rally here. Oh, a little miss bobble. Free ball over. Long rally here. Jess goes on up.
Time for a recap of the major developments of this day. CARICOM says it's staying out of Guyana's political affairs unless there's a breakdown in the judicial and democratic process. And in sport, West Indies A make a decent start to the unofficial first test against India A, posting a respectable total of 228. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanadaNews.com. And for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.